Now, we are in James chapter 4, verse 2. This is Discovering the Scriptures. Let's go ahead and read our translations that are worthy to be studied. First, we'll read King James Version. Quote, "Ye lust and have not, ye kill and desire to have, and cannot obtain. Ye fight and war, yet ye have not, because ye ask not." Unquote. Now, let's compare this with the English Standard Version. Quote, "You desire and do not have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask." Unquote. And then let's look at this in the Young's Literal Translation. Quote, "Ye desire and ye have not. Ye murder and are zealous and are not able to obtain. Ye fight in war and ye have not, because of your not asking." Unquote. I think it's important here to go ahead and show you why it's important to only, when you're studying the scriptures, and I also think it's a good idea when you're reading the scriptures, to only read translations that are worthy to be studied, not translations that add things in or take away. Let's take a look at a couple so you can see when we parse this out that this is very weary and leery about what these guys have done who have done these translations. Let's read the New Living Translation. Quote, "You want what you don't have, so you scheme and kill to get it. You are jealous of what others have, but you can't get it, so you fight and wage war to take it away from them. Yet you don't have what you want because you don't ask God for it." Unquote. Let's look at the NIV, the New International Version. Quote, "You desire, but you do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God." Unquote. Now, that's just a couple of them that I don't read. I don't read those versions. They're not worthy to be studied, in my opinion. And I want you to see what happens here. Now, you notice that both of these added in some things from what we had of what we're studying. Now, I'm going to go ahead and point out a few. Okay, so let's just compare this to the English Standard Version, for instance. The New Living Translation. The English Standard Version, we're going to go phrase and sentence at a time. So English Standard Version, quote, "You desire and you do not have, so you murder." Unquote. New Living Translation, quote, "You want what you don't have, so you scheme and kill to get it." Unquote. Now, did you notice that the New Living Translation is added in, so you scheme, okay, and you kill to get it. Now, the New International Version, the NIV, quote, "You desire, but you do not have, so you kill." Unquote. So now we have kill, not murder. Is there a difference? Now, this is something for you to listen to everything that's going on, listen to the Greek and parsing of that, and then for you to make up your mind. I'm pointing these things out to you. Now, let's continue on. English Standard Version, let's go into the second sentence. "You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel." New Living Translation. "You are jealous of what others have, but you can't get it, so you fight and wage war to take it away from them." Really? That's what I have to say to that. Really? Where'd you get that? Okay, because there's a whole process in that whole sentence there. You are jealous. Okay, well, it says covet of what others have, and you can't get it, so you fight and wage war to take it away from them. Where do you get that? You covet and can obtain, so you fight and quarrel. Okay. New English Version, second sentence, quote, "You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight." Now, that's pretty much the same thing as what the English Standard Version has. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. No problem there with the NIV. There is a problem there with the New Living Translation. And you can look at other translations and compare these. I would suggest that you do, side by side, if you want to read another version of the Bible. Let's go to the third sentence. "You do not have because you do not ask." Now let's read the New Living Translation. Yet you don't have what you want because you don't ask God for it. Now the NIV, you do not have because you do not ask God. Okay, now here's my problem with this. God is not in this verse as far as his name goes. Nothing. It might be implied, but it's not in here. So, do you direct the meaning of this verse differently? Are you implying what you want it to read? Or are you giving us what God has given in his scriptures? Remember the warning about not adding or taking away from scripture. Now, these two groups of people who have done these translations has just now added a word in here, and actually more on the New Living Translation. But they've added things in this. So when we parse this out in the Greek, you'll see that a lot of what they added is not there. Is it implied? Maybe. Is it in their place to put things that are implied? What if this Bible was written so that it was a Catholic Bible, and we had it implied that you didn't ask the Pope for it, or you didn't pray to Mary to get to Jesus for it? Putting in things that you want to put in there is very dangerous. You need to have a translation that gives us exactly what God wants us to have, with as best possible revelation as possible, without putting their doctrines and their desires into the scriptures. All right, we already have some quotes and problems about writing these things down from one century to the next, and is it possible that there could be errors and all this. We've had this argument for many, many decades, many, many centuries. And we had this quarrel and problems about Isaiah also, as far as it was written by more than one Isaiah, and that there was problems. But when they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, they found the book of Isaiah incomplete. The oldest known copy, only one word differential. It was an insignificant word. And the rest of it was identical to what we have. God will protect his word, even from people that do this kind of stuff. This is why we don't use the other translations. They add or take away and are known for it. They're not a worthy translation to be studied and, in my opinion, to even be read, especially not from the pulpit of churches. Okay, let's continue on. Let's look at the parsing of this verse so you can see for yourself what's going on. Ye lust. Well, let's take a look at that phrase and see if James uses it anywhere else in his writing, so we can get an understanding of what he's talking about. He does not. This is unique, this Greek word, to this one verse in James. As far as that goes, it's the only time that this Greek word is used in the New Testament at all. Epiphameo is the Greek word that was used. So let's go ahead and parse out the Greek word here. It is written in the present tense, so it's talking about now. Simple statement of fact or reality that has occurred in actual time. An active voice represents the subject as the doer, the performer of the action. And it's an indicative mood, so they're stating a fact. Alright, now let's take a look at Strong's definition for this Greek word. It is to set the heart upon, an example to long for, rightfully or otherwise, covet, desire, would fain, lust after. That's the definition of this Greek word. Now let's continue on with our parsing of this verse. Ye lust and have, let's parse out this Greek word for have. It's in the present voice for now, an active voice. All right, now let's parse out this word have. It's written in the present tense, so now, active voice. So it is the voice represents the subject as the doer, the performer of the action. And it's indicative mood, so the statement of fact. Continuing, and have not. Ye kill. Now let's look at this Greek word that James is using in this way and see if he used it any other time. He has not. It's the only time that this Greek word is used in the New Testament at all. So let's continue with our parsing. We'll parse this out. You kill. The Greek word is written in present tense, active voice, indicative mood. So he's continuing on with, he hasn't changed anything. It's all present, it's all active, and it's all indicative. It's all now, it's all the performer doing this, and it's all a statement of fact. Now, let's look at the definition of ye kill, since it is unique in the usage of this Greek word in the New Testament. Strong's definition: to be a murderer, kill, do murder, slay. That's the definition of this Greek word. So you could use either or, kill, murder, slay, all depending on what the meaning of this is. Continuing on. Ye kill and desire to have. Now let's look at that Greek word for desire to have and see. It is also unique in James, but it is used by Paul in Galatians 6:13. I'm going to read from the King James Bible to see if we can get a better meaning for this. Quote, "For neither they themselves, who are circumcised, keep the law, but desire to have you circumcised, that they may glory in your flesh." Unquote. Now, since it's only used one other time, and not by the author, let's go ahead and get the definition of this Greek word and see what it means. Strong's definition of this: to have warmth of feeling for or against, affect, covet earnestly, have desire, move with, envy, be jealous over. That's the definition of this Greek word from Strong's. Now let's continue on. Let's parse out this word now. Desire to have. When you parse it out, it continues with the flow of present tense, active voice, indicative mood. Nothing has changed on this direction. So let's continue. Desire to have and cannot obtain. Now let's parse out this word for obtain. This is written in the second aorist tense. So let's change it a little bit. Second aorist is identical meaning to the first. The only difference is the form of the spelling. Okay, so we changed the spelling. Still the active voice, so nothing's changed there. But the mood is now infinitive, not indicative, which in most cases all you're doing is putting a to in front of the word. Okay, let's continue on with epituhano and see where we're going with this. Obtain. Continuing. Obtain, ye fight. Let's take a look and see. Has James used this Greek word any place else? It is unique. It's the only time used in the Greek New Testament. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what the definition of this is. Strong's definition of this word is it's the middle voice of apparently primary verb to war. An example, figuratively, to quarrel, dispute, fight, strive. So it is a primary verb to war. Let's parse out the word now, the Greek word. It's in the present tense, middle to passive opponent. So that's changed a little bit, so let's take a look at that. Almost all cases translated as being the active voice. So basically it's still active, and we're in an indicative mood again, so we're back to stating facts. So continuing on, ye have not because ye ask. Now let's take a look at that. Let's parse that out. The Greek word for ask is written in the present tense, so nothing's changed there. Middle voice, which indicates the subject performing an action upon himself or for his own benefit. It's in the infinitive mood, so we just got to put a to in front of it. Ye to ask, not. And that's the end of the Greek on this verse. Now, on ask, let's go ahead and do the definition of this one to see if there's anything that we can get more out of it. To ask for oneself, request for oneself. That is the definition from this Greek word from Strong's. Let's go ahead and continue on. That's the end of the parsing of this Greek verse. Did you notice the differences now that I was talking to you about? God is not mentioned in this verse at all. When you put that in, you're adding into it. Is it implied? Possible. What did you get out of it? Is it implied? Should they have put that in? Should they leave that alone for you to have an understanding and not have put that in for whatever reason they want? Now let's go ahead and look at the translations that I don't consider worthy to be studied nor read. So we just parsed out this verse. So let's read New Living Translation. Quote, "You want what you don't have, so you scheme and kill to get it. You are jealous of what others have, but you can't get it, so you fight and wage war to take it away from them. Yet you don't have what you want because you don't ask God for it." Unquote. Do you see all the problems in this verse? Did the parsing have all of this? Now let's look at the NIV, New International Version. Quote, "You desire, but you do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God." Unquote. Do you see the liberties they've taken? They've changed these few things. Okay. They added God in here. They added God's name in here. It's not in the Greek. Is it implied? Is it there? Should they have written it here, since it's not in the Greek? I personally think not. They should not have done that. There's other things they've taken liberty. Maybe you should put that in there with parentheses so we get an understanding, so we can make up our mind. If you're going to add something in, then do so. But put it in parentheses so we understand that what's in parentheses is trying to give a better meaning of what you understand, of not what the Greek or the Hebrew has. That's my part on this one. So let's go ahead and go forward. Let's look at John Gill's commentary of the Bible on this verse. Quote, "You lust and have not," unquote. The apostle proceeds to show the unsuccessfulness of many in their desires and pursuits after worldly things. Some might be like the sluggard, whose soul desireth all good things, and yet he has nothing. That's found in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 4. Quote, "The soul of the sluggard desireth and hath nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat." Unquote. King James Version. Continuing on. "Because he does not make use of any means, even of such as are proper and necessary, and ought to be used." Quote, "Ye kill and desire to have, and cannot obtain." Unquote. Some, instead of kill, which seems not so agreeable, read envy. And then the sense is they envy at good and happiness of others, and covet after others' property, but cannot enjoy it. All such envy and covetousness are fruitless as well as sinful. Quote, "Ye fight in war, yet ye have not." Unquote. Go to law one with another about each other's property, or rather, make a great stir and hustle to get the things of the world. Rise early and set up late. Strive who should get most, and quarrel about what is gotten, and seek to get all advantages of one another, and yet still have not what at least is desired and strove for. Quote, "Because ye ask not," unquote, "of God, whose blessing only makes rich, instead of all this worldly stir and bustle, and these strivings and quarrelings with one another. It would be much more advisable, and in the issue be found to turn to more account, to pray to God for a blessing on your endeavors, and to ask of him the good and necessary things of life, in submission to his will, and with thankfulness for what he has bestowed." Now that ends John Gill's commentary on James chapter 4, verse 2.